Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of E-Heroes for those keeping count. This is episode 354, and my next guest turns trash into cash, specifically and particularly trailer trash. So I'll have her explain, but I want to welcome Mitzi Dyane to the show, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for having me.
You know, every person I have on here has a unique story, has a unique way of doing things. And, like I said off air, I've interviewed a lot of real estate investors. I've interviewed people in the real estate space.
Mhm.
But you're the first one who takes trailers and flips them. And I think
Yeah.
that's fascinating because there has to be a niche. There has to be a and I think that a lot of people think, well, Rob, I don't know how to turn trash into cash. But the thing is if you just look around and open your minds and see what can actually be done with some of this stuff, you know, I- and to be honest, we used to have a trailer down at the beach, down at Rehoboth, down in Delaware. My
Mhm.
grandfather had built it or put it there in the '60s, when land rent was like $25 a year. And
Oh,
then
wow.
over the years, it was like, I think before we sold it, it was like 350 a month, you know?
Mhm.
And, but it, some of these trailers are nice. You got double wide, you got six, but I think when people think about trailers, they think about the old 1960s styles but some of the newer ones have just as much comfort and amenities as a real home.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They do. And actually, do you know Barbara Cochran off of Shark Tank?
I've heard the name.
Yeah, she actually lives in a double wide in Los Angeles that she remodeled. Yeah,
Wow.
so like if she's living in a double wide and she can live anywhere, that says a lot. And because there's the double wide was actually in an area with a great view.
Mhm.
So instead of getting rid of it and building, she just remodeled the double wide. Yeah, with the I actually started out in my 20s turning trash into cash. Like I had to. I had to figure out a way to make extra money. Single mom, young kids, I'm young, not knowing what I was doing. And I was just like flipping couches, furniture. I even started flipping cars.
Wow.
And then I went into, and it all started with bubblegum and
Really?
candy.
Wow.
But it started there and then it just built up. I guess sometimes I think like our mindset, we think that we can only do something small. We don't realize how big we can do something. So I
Mhm.
had to start really small because my mind was like, oh, I can't do that. So I started there and then I built up into that. And now I'm flipping trailers. But I actually about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, started full time, and I was in single family and apartments. It was about 2.5 years ago that I went into trailers, and then everything that I had learned from being broke and needing to make extra money, I put into this. All that knowledge. You know how when you're younger and you're building up all these skills, and you're like, I don't know why I'm doing any of this. I don't know how any of these skills are going to come into my future. And the it did. It does eventually. I can say any of the younger ones listening, eventually, whatever you've learned in the past does come up again where it was nice to have known
And
that.
and sometimes it comes back in such a way that you're thinking, because in high school, I hated English. I hated writing. I didn't like any of that. Teachers always said, "Rob, you write weird. That's not how
Yeah.
people write." And I'm like, "Yes, but this professional writes like this, and I'm mimicking that." But yes, that they're the exception. I'm like, no. And so now, 60 plus books later, I've produced over the last few years from a guy who hated English. So sometimes the skills that we learn early on come back to haunt us.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know?
well, I think that was pretty good. 60 something books later. Yeah, I actually had an English teacher that told me I couldn't write either, and I'm over here writing a book at the moment too. So,
You know, and the thing is that you know I think turning trash into cash is one of those things that people just maybe think it's below them. And maybe it's my way of dealing with it, because we just had a garage sale here, and I hate garage sales. I figure I'm just gonna put a sign on, "Free, just take my shit, I don't care, it's not
Yeah.
worth my time, and I don't wanna bring the stuff back in the house."
Mhm.
You know, and every time, we pay for the ad, we get everything prepped, and the neighbors are making big bucks selling their stuff, and I'm like, "What?" And we're like, "We made, what, 40 bucks for 12 hours of labor?" I mean,
Yeah.
to me, but there's a skill set that you have to understand how to sell small items. And one of the guys that came to this garage sale bought my mother-in-law's box of old records, gave her like
Mm.
$100, and she was like, "Wow, $100." Granted, there's probably a lot of stuff in there that the guy's going to go on eBay and sell it for, $1,500. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
and that's the thing about skill set. You start to learn what is actually going to make you money from that so-called trash that you think it is.
Mhm.
If you just took the time to market it in the right place.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because you're not gonna make anything at a garage sale, but if you learn to market it on eBay or any of these online services, you can get 10, 20, 30, 40 times more than what you paid for it.
I went with a friend the other day who needed some extra cash, and I was like, "Do you have any cash to spend to make extra cash with?" Because I know how to make money with no money, and I also know how to make some money with a little bit of money. But it also depends on the mindset of the person I'm dealing with. Because if you don't think that you can make money with no money, then you're not going to do it.
Mhm.
So, like, and I'm not going to try to defeat your mindset and prove it to you either. I'm going to wait. I'm going to let you build up into that, but had a friend who doesn't believe in that. So I was like, okay, how much cash do you have to make? Because they believe you have to have money to make money. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to work with your mindset. What do you have? And they were like, I've got like $100, if that. And I really need to make more money. That has to go to this and this bill. And I was like, okay, let's go to Goodwill. We went to Goodwill and we picked up a few items. And I got a $44 dresser, and it was worth $3,100. And then I think I'd chipped in a little cash. A $77 hutch that also was worth $3,100, and it even had still the key in it, had all the gold plates still on it. And these were high end, and this was could be sold for twice as much, what I'm telling you. And then we got a $30 chair that was worth 550. And so went in there and I was like, okay, now you can sell this and make all your bills for the entire month off 135 or whatever we spent in there.
Mhm.
And I was like, so now your job is to figure out where to sell it. And they're like, well, where do I sell this stuff? I'm like, all right, another great question. Okay. And so we started, and I was like, eBay, and then there's some online stuff that you can do. And then chat GBT it, see what stuff you don't know. And they're like, all right. And I was like, now you put it out there and you make it look good. You do good pictures and you follow up with people. And then you can make your monthly rent. And they're like, no way. Why don't people do this all the time? I'm like, because nobody believes it.
Right.
And nobody wants to develop the skills. The reason why I knew which ones to go after was because when I was younger, I had to figure out which furniture I could flip.
Mhm.
And so that was an old skill that I developed that I can bring in now and help somebody with. But yeah, with the trailers, when I was younger, I lived in a trailer. My very first house, I was 19, bought my first house. I was always into real estate, by the way. I was reading the newspaper and really reading real estate when I was 10 years old. I was a nerd. I was weird like that. And I tried buying my first house at 16, again at 18, and then at 19 I did it. And it was a double wide that I put on a half an acre. It was a 5 bedroom, 3 bath, and I rented out the other rooms. So my mortgage was paid for so I could go to college. And
Mhm.
so I was like trying to figure out ways to like mess with money so I didn't have to be working I was still worked, but I had to make more money than what I could afford on everything else because I also had children. So I was like, I have to figure this out. And so that was my first opportunity with a double wide. Actually, I grew up in one when I was younger too. Um, but I did that and then realized, hey, there's some money that you can do with these things. And I went to school and didn't have to pay my mortgage because the back 2 rooms I always had rented out, and that paid my mortgage and my bills. And then so it was really cool. And then when I about 2.5 years ago, and I don't know if you knew this about me, but I was in finance for 10 years and I was a financial advisor and I was a compliance officer. And so I saw a lot of different investments that went through. So my mind also works a little differently when it comes to looking at stuff. So about 2.5 years ago, I'm in single family and multifamily, and I'm wholesaling, I'm flipping, I'm buying, and the market just starts tanking. And I knew that was going to happen. I saw like it seemed to be artificially inflated. Taxes were going up, insurance was going up, everything was inflation was going on. And I was like, you know what? If so, we don't get ahead of this, there's going to be a really serious lack of affordable housing. And so I started doing some research. Are container homes the answer? Or tiny homes the answer? What's the answer for affordable housing? I even looked up 3D printed homes. I have some friends who have the 3D printer. Seems really good way to go. There's just certain stuff. It's still so new that you still have some things that has to be worked out before it's actually going to be a viable, like scalable option in the moment. Maybe in certain communities you could do that, but with what I'm working with right now, and in the county that I'm working in, I got to put all that together, what they allow. So I looked at it and it was mobile homes,
Mhm.
manufactured homes. Because tiny homes, you, I'm in San Antonio. Some of these families have like 7 to 10 kids. You're not going into a tiny home. You're not going to live in an RV. You're you need a bigger home. And so what are you going to do? Well, manufactured homes. You're talking about you got 5 bedroom, 4 bedroom homes here. You got 3 bedroom, 2 bath, single wides, and so I was like, and you can get these cheap. But the people who needed them couldn't buy them cash. So
Mhm.
whenever you're finding these cheap, like I could find one for 3,500 or $5,000, or I can find one for $15,000, but the people who need them, they can't afford that.
Right.
So it's like, well, I've got to create a win-win-win, or other people aren't going to come in and help these people. So how can I do this? And I've also got to win too, because I can't keep doing it if I'm pouring from my own cup, I'm going to drain myself. I've got to be overflowing. And so I'm like, so how am I going to do this? And so I put it together where I get these mobile homes in these parks. So they're already in a community. They don't have to be moved or anything. And I find them for a certain price. I find an investor that comes in. I create a note. They take that note at a discount. And now I'm able to buy that property cash and also pocket some cash into my pocket too. That's usually what I do. And then I put it out there for a down payment between 3 to 5 thousand,
Mhm.
and the mortgage is less than rents. So now I'm even more affordable than the houses you would rent out anyways.
Mhm.
And you can own this house now between 7 to 10 years. This is for somebody who would have just been renting for most of their life. Now they're owning a home, and after 7 to 10 years, they can rent it out. And what, rents always go up anyways.
Yeah.
So after so many years, if they wanted to move out and just have somebody else move in, or rent to own to someone else or whatever, they can now make that income off of it. So and the investors, they're only having to put 25, 35, sometimes 40,000 down on these mobile homes, and they're getting an interest rate between 16 to 24%
Mhm.
return on their money. So I created this win-win-win where all the way around everybody wins and gets something out of it, and it provided affordable housing for a group of people who really needed it.
Right.
And so that's how I turned trailer trash into cash.
And I'm sure that in Texas, the mobile homes, even in parks, are a little spaced out further.
Mhm. They are.
Here in Pennsylvania, some of these older mobile homes are right up against each other. So if you got more than 2 cars, you're screwed because there's no place to put the second car.
Mhm.
And, and maybe that's how they maximize the rent, "Hey, we're gonna charge you $300 or $400 for this little dinky, land space, and then we're gonna charge you extra for parking and this and I get it. You all have to make money. But I think that when a mobile home is there's more space, You have a little bit of a yard. You have pride in home ownership. It's not just, a place that you're going to destroy because it's just in a community, you know.
Mhm.
And so I think that when you have a mobile home, don't put it right up against the next one, you know. Give it
No,
some
yeah, and
time.
I own a park, and actually, this is how I came up with this idea too. But I own a park, and it's nice space. I get some yard space, um, and then they have a whole acre that they can run on too. So it's pretty nice on that. But I believe in that too. In the parks that we do this stuff in, if it's not my own parks, it's in parks that have the pools, the parks. It's an actual community that most people live in for a while. It's
Hmm.
not something that, people move in for just a year or two. They stay there for years.
Yeah.
And so I picked those kind where it's like the kids can grow up and be around their friends and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And
and the thing is that you say, that there's a pool, there's all this great stuff, and I think that's great for kids growing up, and for them, it gives them pride of ownership, it gives them pride of community, you know. But I think when trailers are too close together, it just becomes trashy,
oh yeah.
and nobody cares, and I think there needs to be, if I'm gonna be in a trailer with my family, I need to be able to have the kids be safe and run around and do stuff and not have fear of getting run over and taken and yeah. So I'm glad that you do things the right way.
Oh yeah. And if I were to do something in one of those like close-up trailer homes, I would think of who would be interested in this. It'd probably be some older veteran who doesn't care to talk to people. He's
Right.
not trying to do the yard. He just wants to go inside and do his thing, and that's it. I would probably sell to him if that was the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people feel that if you're not in a regular home, you're in a trailer, you're poor. Well, that's not the case. Just as we opened this up, you said that the person from Shark Tank lives in a mobile home, a double wide. And
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there.
Yeah, there really is a bad stigma around it, but it's helped me. I use it for my benefit. But yeah, there is a lot of negative stigmas around mobile homes being for the less fortunate. So you must be less fortunate if you live in one. Why can't you just be smart?
Mhm.
You bought something that's cheaper, and now you've got more disposable income. Life is short. Why are you trying to spend your money on something that you sleep in?
Mhm.
Like that much money on it. Like, I mean, I understand. I get it. You want to have a beautiful environment. I get that kind of stuff. But like, I travel a lot. I eat out where I want to eat. I do all of that, and I think that well, I afford it because of what I do for a living too. But I think that everybody can have more disposable income. I was a financial advisor. I know this. If you live the right way, and it's like most of us are trying to live way above our means. We
Yeah.
already know that. But if you quit trying to like prove yourself to other people, because honestly, no one cares.
Yeah.
No one cares that much about you.
Yeah.
If anything, if they care about bad things happening in your life, worse are happening to them.
Right.
And you make them feel better about how bad their life is. Okay, that's what that is. And they'd rather look at you like you've got the circus going on instead of looking at their own circus. That's it. I've never seen anyone who's actually doing better than it somebody else looking down on them, like, or having even the time to even waste on that. Like they've got better things to think about and do.
Oh, and for those who know me, they know I'm very frugal. I don't buy a lot of extra stuff, and I keep my car payments below $300. And
Oh
people go,
wow.
"What? How do
Yeah.
you have a car? Almost a new car, and your payments?" Yeah, people, I know how to work the system.
Well, and you can.
Well,
Yeah.
and I wanna share with you how I did this because most people don't realize that your bank is there for profit. I don't bank at a bank. I bank at a credit union. And how I got my car is I already had the money in the account. And so
Mhm.
they lent it based on my money's already there. So they gave it to me at 1.9% interest.
Oh, see,
And
have you
so
have you heard of infinite banking with the life insurance?
I haven't done it because you're borrowing against your own money.
Yeah.
You know, I just use my own money as collateral for something that, and I'm making the payments and my credit's golden. So it's
That's the way to go. And then I actually am getting my insurance license again. I already had it when I was a financial advisor, but I'm getting it again to do the infinite banking. So the investors that want to put the money into these loans, um, they first put it into a life insurance policy. It's a whole life. And after like a week, they can pull out 90%. Now it depends on the policy and everything, but they can pull out 90% of the premium, and then they can invest that, but the money is still making 5% over here in the life insurance policy,
hmm,
while it's also making, my 16-20% that I'm offering on these notes. That's also making that, and the only reason I can offer that is because I sell the note at a discount,
hmm.
so it makes the rate higher.
Oh, I think that was a concept that Rockefeller and Carnegie did back in the 1900s.
Oh yeah.
Those original billionaires knew how to, work everything to their advantage.
hmm Well, and we all should be. Like, there's too many ways to work things around to feel like you got to be a victim, or you got to play it small, or you got to, be any kind of way besides what you want. Like, there's so many opportunities out there. And to me, you don't have to take advantage of anyone.
Right.
Like, somebody may be like, oh, you bought that at 15, but you sold it at 45 to somebody else. Yeah, because they couldn't do that. They
Mm,
wouldn't have been able to have a house. They would still be renting a house. And I don't feel bad for that, because
mhm.
there was a lot of people in between that is all winning in between all that, and it provided affordable housing.
Right.
Or you bought that for 30 and you sold it for 45. Yes, yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
if you to me, if you want it done differently, feel free
Yeah.
to do it differently. If you don't like the way I do things, you show me the way.
Well, yeah,
Show me
and
a better way.
people, I think, get upset at other people's success, and
Oh
and
yeah.
and and they'll start to say things just like you said. You made too much on that deal. How do you know how much money I made? What's it any of your concern? I
Mhm,
got a house, I got kids, I got this, I got all this stuff to pay for.
mhm,
You know, people don't care. They will demonize you, demoralize you, and,
mhm.
and 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 you're like, well, am I doing something wrong then? And then you think, oh, I should lower my price. No, the moment
No,
you think like that, raise your price because you know who cares what other people think.
I've learned that too. Yeah, it does not matter. Yeah, and the most of the people, and even though I'm talking about them right now, but most of the people who do this, that are saying how you made that much money off that, are the same people who don't mind sitting in a chair all day long playing on the computer while they're getting paid.
Right.
Like, it's the same people that seem to do that. And I'm like, hey, I know, because I pay people. I've had employees, and then like they get upset when you call them out for not working. It's like, hey, you think it's okay to steal from other people?
Well,
And they're like,
and let's go back to the video game analogy because I've
yeah,
known so many people that I've said that to. Hey, look, you're sitting around anyway playing video games. Hook it up to Twitch or all these other ones and video what you're doing to teach other people. Now
yeah,
you're making money. And they're like,
exactly.
"Oh no, that's too much work."
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
So you just rather just sit there and do nothing all day playing video games instead of using your brain to make money.
Today is too easy
Yeah.
to be able to do it, and it's like, and really it's a mindset thing. I believe it's a mindset thing, so I actually teach a mindset class too, because I'm just like, I've seen it myself, I've seen it in a lot of people. Like, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm not going to do that. They don't even give themselves a chance because they feel like they're going to fail, so
Mhm.
they're scared of the failure. And I know some people are like, they're scared of success. Yeah, some people are scared of success and then having to be held to a certain standard, like, and they don't want that either. So it's almost easier to not really try.
Right.
But it's easier, but are you going to like your life? Are you going to like yourself? Are you going to enjoy life?
Yeah,
To me,
I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years, and I've watched so many good people stop doing what they do because they gave up. They didn't
mhm,
want to continue. You know, if I gave up, I would have never accomplished, writing all these books or producing all these books or helping all these people having this podcast, you know, you got to look at the long game. You know,
Mhm.
what is it that you can do that could benefit somebody in the long run? And then, today's excuses, well, AI is kicking my ass. Well, AI is just a tool. Learn to use it the right way, and it can actually enhance your business. It could enhance you, it could help you turn your trash, your opportunities into cash. And
What I've learned is there's two types of people in this world. Those that make excuses and those that make it happen, and you cannot be two. You cannot be both.
right.
So which one are you? If you're somebody who's always giving an excuse why you can't do something or something's in your way, you're the excuse maker. You're
Yeah,
not the action taker.
right.
And then if you're the make it happen person, you hear all the excuses, you step on them and you get back up, you still make it happen. You're like, "Okay, cool. So those are going to be my obstacles or what y'all think are going to be my obstacles. Got this. Watch me." And I'm one of those people like hold my beer. Like watch me do this.
Yeah, and I think that more people need to have that confidence of hold my beer, that they can take their knowledge, their experience, and do something that it's kind of like lightning in a bottle. You know how to do it. Just do it.
Mhm.
Don't take no, don't take excuses, don't listen to other people. Hell, if I listened to other people, I wouldn't be where I am. And
Yeah.
I think we have to look at that going, the people that are successful, how many people did they listen to that told them not to do it?
Mhm.
0. It's like, but they're the first ones to criticize, others when they become billionaires. "Oh my god, Elon Musk, he's such a devil." Stop it. You know, instead of cri criticizing others, look at what they're doing, how they did it, and when you look at Elon, you look at, say, wow, he developed cars and rockets and boring equipment and all this other stuff. He never said no. He just kept doing what he wanted to do. Now, you may not like him because of his politics or who he's associated with, but look at his experience. Look at what he's done. You know,
Mhm.
and I want people to look outside of people's politics.
Well, it's not even just people's politics. Most people they don't realize that we both all have a shadow side and we all have the good side. We got the bad, we got the good, or what you want to consider bad and good.
Mhm.
And when you haven't integrated that in yourself, you tend to judge everyone around you and seeing their bad because you are so scared of your own.
Yeah.
And like once you integrate all that, like that's something that I also work on in my one of my classes is like integrating those two things because then you can just look at people and be like, they're living their life. They're in their own journey. Like it's not a big deal now. You don't have to like demonize and everybody and be like, "Oh, they're not living the way I think they should." It's like, "Okay, Mrs. Queen and King, whatever
Yeah.
you are, but it's not really up to you." Like and why does it even matter to you? Like just do your thing. If you were more focused on your own stuff, you wouldn't have to worry about that. But yeah, I think it's just the fact that the more that you haven't met your own self in the areas that you don't like, the more you're going to see it in everybody else around you.
Yeah.
And like saying, "Oh, I don't like his politics." Well, mind your business. I don't know, Is it really your business? Even if he puts it out there, you don't have to make it your business. I don't.
No, and I try to stay out of the news. I try to stop looking at all that negative stuff because it's someone else's spin. I'm gonna do my own homework. I'm gonna look at the person and say, "Okay, but what is he stand for? What is his morals? What's his value?" And all these things. You can't build a trillion-dollar business, you know, and not get haters. So, you know, and I just had a hater the other day, and this is somebody that approached me 6 months ago, and I said, no, I don't want to work with you. I look at your social, and it's nothing but hate. So, I blocked him. Then he comes back and starts texting me, and I'm like, dude, what is your deal? And he goes, "Oh, you're just this guy, writes all these books but doesn't want to give back and blah blah." Dude,
That's a clear manipulation tactic.
yeah,
Like, and that's A lot of the people, so if anybody's interested in mindset stuff, I do teach on that. It's at 12 o'clock tomorrow. I don't mean to drop. But yeah, but that's something that I talk a lot about is like most of us, we are so used to people being a certain way. We don't realize when people are actually being manipulative or toxic, or even when we are. And so we just consider it just the way things are. And it's like now, if somebody's trying to guilt you into being the way they want you to be, that's a control tactic. And they're manipulating you to fit what they want you to be. And like, I'm one of those, I don't mind upsetting you.
Hmm.
You're not fitting into whatever you're trying to, and then calling you out. I'll be like, oh, that was a really good tactic. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, guilting me into doing what you want me to do. But that's not going to work on me. And they're going to like,
No, and me either. And if you've ever read, if you ever read any of my Rob versus books, so there's 8 of them, and it's just me taking on scammers and morons in the world, and it's just me wasting people's time with my sarcasm, and people love it. But my whole new series is called "Can Go to Hell," and the debt collectors can go to hell, the slumlords, the HOA boards, and even the IRS.
oh, I like
And
that.
every single book has template letters in the back where you can copy and kind of you know defend your case. And I wanted something that was a little bit educational, sarcastic in my own way, but also helps those people fight back because you know there are people like me and you
Mhm.
that will go to the ends of the earth to protect people. But then there's people that will scam them, will try to manipulate them, and I don't want that. I
Oh,
I
yeah.
I want people to be educated. I want them to elevate their experience, and I want them to know that there are people like us that will help them.
Oh, yeah.
And so, a lot
Glad
of the
you,
books that I'm writing now are all consumer advocacy because, it just maybe it's part of my legacy, maybe it's part of what I want people to know me from, but I really don't like people being bullied.
yeah. I don't either. And that's why I teach the classes that I do because and because it can be the bully making you feel like you're being the bully by calling them out for their behavior
Mhm.
or having any like so it's like you have to be aware of like when people start trying to do that to you of what's going on so you can stand your ground and stay in
So
your power.
so how do people find you? Where do they go?
So I'm on Facebook, Mitzi Dyane. I think it's Mitzi Dyane one, Mitzidyane. It's me with the shorter hair. My other profile got hacked, so I thought I lost it, but I did come back. So I have a longer hair one and a shorter hair one. It's the shorter hair one until I make my picture again. But and then you can also reach out to me, mitzidyane@gmail.com. And I also have a website, swiftsellproperties.com. I got a phone number on there as well that you can reach out to me. And then another way that you can reach out to me is my phone number, and you can text me. It's 903-372-7189. And there you go.
And if you're in the San Antonio area, she'll be your guide on the Riverwalk.
Yes, I know where to go in San Antonio. I may not be your personal guide, but I'll tell you where to go.
Go there and there and there. But don't go to the Alamo. It's just so small. No, San Antonio is a great place. I've been there several times, and um, the Riverwalk is an experience I think everybody needs to at least do once. I've done it a couple times, and the restaurants that are on the Riverwalk are some of them are really the food is outstanding.
Oh, if you like the ones that are on the Riverwalk, y'all should go to the touristy side. Check out the Pearl in the King Williams District or the Blue Star Arts Complex. Write those down. Check them out. The Riverwalk is also around there, but it's more residential, so there's not all those restaurants on the actual riverwalk. So it's very beautiful, sidewalk, waterfalls, that kind of stuff going on. And then the restaurants are right up above, but you'll see the restaurants, and all of them are good in the Pearl. All of them are good in the Blue Star also. So we have the Culinary Art Institute here.
Mm.
So the Pearl actually holds that school, and so every restaurant there is a very nice, very good restaurant.
So that's it, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode, and check out Mitzi at her Facebook and her website, and text her if you wish, and head on down to San Antonio because everything's better in Texas. Adios.
Thank you.